PhD in physics from St. Xavier's College. He holds three master's degree, one in MBA marketing, MBA finance, and MA in philosophy. He worked as an industrial manager in Microsoft India. He co-founded companies including Thinkly, Zipcash, and Digicita. He has more than 24 years of experience in tech and consumer companies.
Yes, Vivek, I think you can take it forward from here.
All right. Thanks. Am I audible, loud and clear?
Yes, you are perfectly audible.
Okay, great. So first of all, I think a big thanks to to the IIT and the ETC cell for basically having me over. Pleasure being here amongst some of the brightest kids in the country, and thanks Amit for the introduction. Appreciate that. What I'll just do is I'll just share my screen. Is the screen sharing enabled?
I think maybe I will have to make you presenter. Just a second.
Yeah, I think it's available. Yeah, I'll just see.
Yeah, great. Please go ahead.
Am I visible? Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So so thanks so much, for having me over. As you can see, today's talk is really about trying to kind of understand what's really happening with Web 3.0, Social 2.0, and really the creator economy and how they're really kind of interlinked. So as my discussion with Shashank, what I'm really going to be doing is probably spend the next 10-15 minutes just talking about kind of laying it out there. Really talking about what's really happening when we say Web 3.0. At least my take on that, and what I believe fundamentally is Social 2.0. And then maybe we can take a quick break for Q&A because so that we can keep it interactive. And then maybe I'll take around 5 minutes more to kind of just take the opportunity to kind of plug in Thinkly and just share with you what's really happening, right? So let's take it on from there, right? So really moving along, I think there's so much of talk, I think about Web 2, Web 3, and so I think if you were to think about it, I mean, what was Web 1? Because I think yours is a generation which is basically born in the Web 2.0. You probably don't know the Web 1.0, right? And Web 1.0 was really a generation where it was basically simply about what I call as read, where you could actually, there was a time when actually you obviously wouldn't know, but you couldn't access the internet through your mobile. There was no Wi-Fi, there was no mobile data. You could only access it through clunky desktops and maybe laptops if you're lucky enough. And you'd use browsers like, Netscape and Internet Explorer, right? Fundamentally, what you did in Web 1.0 was you basically access large portals. The big portals of a time were Yahoo and MSN, right? And your entire interaction was more about consuming. You had access to data and you could just simply read the information. But, it was not about interactivity at all. Like, so, I mean, and that's the way the web was. You could almost say all the way through the 90s, all the way maybe to 2004, 2005, right? And then something started changing around that time, right? I mean, and I think 2005 onwards, is what we call as the Web 2.0, because suddenly, it was not only about static information, it was being about more interactive, So suddenly you could actually interact with the web and you could not only read, but you could write. And that's when, let's say, blogging took off, sites like Yelp came off, Orkut happened, Facebook happened, so on and so forth, right? And as I say, yes, the rest is history, right? I think the whole stretch was phenomenal. As you can see, like, while the entire internet opportunity way back in 2000 would be, let's say, $1 trillion, just the top 7-8 companies, right now, of really the web would probably constitute an economy or a valuation of around $6 trillion. It just kind of shows the impact this has had, right? And obviously, I think another natural offset of the Web 2.0 was the fact that you had social networks that formed, you had mobile first, you were always on devices. There was cloud-driven computing, because everything kind of moved to the cloud, right? And I mean, and that's the world that we live in today, And in many ways, in fact, even if you look at companies like Airbnb, if you look at, let's say, Uber, they're all byproducts of Web 2.0. And, we aren't done with Web 2.0 yet. In fact, we probably think that, many people believe there's a long way to go before Web 2.0 in itself plays out, right? But then you have the next phenomenon which is coming up, which people has called as the Web 3.0 now. Really what is Web 3.0? And I think given the time of the day or who you ask, you're going to get different answers, You'll probably have people talking about, Bitcoin, people have talking about crypto, blockchains, people throw in NFTs, right? But really, in my view, while Web 1 was about read and then was read and write, I think fundamentally Web 3.0 is really about read, write, and control. And I think the question to really ask is NFTs and Bitcoins and, all of this, are these just attributes of Web 3.0, or are they the very fundamental building, what should I say, the element of what Web 3.0 is about, right? So just to kind of, unpack this, and ready to share my thought, like, if you typically were to, again, like I said, ask anybody, Web 3.0, I think the whole thought is about trustless. The fact that, people want to basically, imagine applications and companies which are all, where the whole element of trust is not driven by one entity, but it's kind of shoved down to all the people in the part of the larger chain, in the part of what we call as like a blockchain. So the whole appeal to the people is that it's decentralized, it's trustless, and the fact that really the utopian belief that it can be unregulated. Like Bitcoin is a great example. Like now people believe that it is all of this, and of course you think it's unregulated, while of course each sovereign is trying. I'm sorry, is that a question? Okay. So
No, I
Bitcoin
think
is
someone by mistake unmuted themselves.
no problem. Yeah. So that's a great example of what we believe is a completely unregulated currency, and it has its own wonderful appeal around that, right? But I think what I'm really trying to ask out that look, is this what we're really talking about? Is this what this whole move towards Web 3.0 is about, or what is really the driving force? And I think this reminds me of my time, let's say 20 years back when I was at Microsoft, where we had this huge religious debate, fundamentally between open source software and about closed proprietary software like Microsoft, Oracle, and the stuff, right? I mean, it was like if you were to be in the tech world, it was almost like, Linux is going to eat the world, Microsoft's going to die in 2 years, Oracle is already dead, and stuff like that, right? I mean, of course, when you look back, I mean, all of that was obviously, there's exaggeration, right? I mean, in fact, even in those days, if you just step out of this whole, echo chambers of techies and you just step out, and of course, I'm not a techie, but I mean, being in a technology company, you just step out and talk to the layman and you really talk about, I mean, he really couldn't give a damn, If you were to go and talk to the business owners of various organizations, they will never really give a damn. I mean, all they really wanted was the software to kind of deliver, give them the business requirements, and that's all that they worried about. And in fact, even if you spoke to the CIOs, the so-called techies in the organization, they really didn't give a damn. What they were really interested about was total cost of ownership and about the cost of software coming down. So that's really, end of the day, for the end users or for the power users, the issue was all about, right? And I think in the same way, I think when today we're talking about this whole move toward decentralization and everything, fundamentally what people are talking about is how will it kind of reflect the changing balance of power between platforms and the stakeholders. I mean, so far, if you look at it, the platforms, really rule the roost. Like a Facebook would kind of, decide really like, what's happening on the platform, what can you come and do on the platform, and what's really going to be, if at all, there's going to be any revenue share that's going to happen with the platform, right? I mean, Facebook, for example, for the longest never had any rev share. YouTube around 12 years back started, the whole YouTube affiliate program, to kind of, So fundamentally, the problem that happens is that users end up really being at the mercy of the platform. They can decide in what way would you earn money. They will decide what's going to be the revenue share. They will decide what's the business model, right? And I think fundamentally, I think the Web 3.0, when you see this whole utopian or the whole idealistic move towards, decentralization and trustless, it's about people wanting that. I don't think so fundamentally they really care what is the building block of it. Is it really an NFT or a crypto or a smart contract? I don't think it really matters. It really is about that companies now need to reflect the changing fact, because the stakeholders are realizing that, it's ultimately your and my contributions to YouTube, your and my contribution to every time I've befriended somebody, posted a comment, uploaded a video, I basically up the value of Facebook by that little bit. But the question is, what did I get, right? What was about the democracy of the risk and rewards? I took risk with the platform. I invested money and my time in the platform. But what did I get? I think that's the question fundamentally people are asking. So when I say that, Web 3.0 is about control, I'm just talking about control of the business model around the money, who's making, how are they making, what is the business model they're making, and secondly, what's happening to the data. Because, you're just kind of unrelentingly contributing so much of data to the platform. But what is the platform doing with that? Who is it using for? I mean, is it just being used to pimp my data to the highest bidder, to advertise me, or what's really happening out there, right? So I think simply put, I think we have to really look at these questions. What's really happening in terms of the business model? Is it really about dopamine-based revenue models? Who's really owning the customers and stuff like that, right? So I think this is the big debate in my view, that fundamentally people are trying to have more control, and because end of the day they believe that maybe the new building blocks will provide that. But honestly, I think that doesn't really matter. It's about anybody who's willing to provide that to the people is really going to become what I'm calling is a social 2.0 company. So what happened in Web 2.0 was social 1.0 companies, but what's happening now the company which are reflecting to that is social. So let's just look at how is it different. So again, if you were to go back to a social 1.0 company, what really happened? The only currency that you earn as a user on the platform was social influence. So what was the currency? You actually either got maybe every time you posted, you got, let's say 10 likes or 100 likes, you got retweets, you got followers, right? That's a currency that people really understood, on social 1.0, right? I mean, that's what you did. But the question was, how did you earn money out of that? Great, you got, let's say, maybe if you're lucky, you got 10,000 Instagram followers. If you're really a influencer or a mega influencer, you probably got 1 million people. But how do you monetize it? And so far, the whole problem with the large social media companies was it was by upselling through adjacent platforms. So you could probably have had a great content, or you probably had something else to sell. You would probably put that link in the bio, make people click there and do it. Or you would probably do a whole lot of affiliate marketing, branded marketing. You would plug in a product, you would talk to brands, try to promote the products, give the links, give them discount coupons, make commissions on all of that. I mean, this is really what was happening. You never really earned money on the platform. It was all about doing transaction off the platform, because the platform themselves were not geared to enable all of this. And I think that's how the social 1.0 really happened, right? And I think the other thing you might say that, okay, all of that was an issue, but you know what, it was all free, right? I mean, end of the day, why should I complain? Facebook kept it free, Insta kept it free, WhatsApp has been free, how does it really matter, right? But the question is, we all know there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? End of the day, we were paying these companies with the data. Data was obviously being used. The data was actually being used to run ads, because every time you wrote something about yourself, you entered your relationship status, you were just giving more and more data for these models to work on, and they were just working. They were kind of running the algorithm and deciding what ads to run. And if you look at it, I mean, all these words that we talk about, sensationalism, fake news, trolling, I mean, these have all entered the lexicon maybe last 4-5 years. They didn't exist before social 1.0. But they've all come in a big way. The whole bullying, the cancelling culture, the wokeism, it's all come in the last 5-7 years, right? In a big way. And then we expect the companies to kind of cover that. But honestly, why would they? Because ultimately, when all of this happens, it becomes a lovely flywheel, because it means more engagement. When it becomes more engagement, that means you're coming to the platform so many times. That means there's so many more inventory for ads. And end of the day, you can't blame them, because these companies need to kind of keep the lights on. They need to keep the servers going, right? And I think the ads is what was propelling all of that, right? So that's really what happened in social 1.0. While in some ways, you got social influence, you got democratization of the social influence, but fundamentally, privacy and the economics were really the one that took a backseat. So that's social 1.0. And I think when you now transform to social 2.0, you are looking at companies which are really focusing on control, and the companies which are really trying to put the creators front and center of everything that they do. Now, if you see all the companies on the right hand side, Patreon, Substack, Clubhouse, these aren't companies which have built upon blockchains or smart contracts or NFTs or whatever. They're just extremely smart companies which have built their entire business and taken away a significant amount of value from the social 1.0 company, just by trying to be very transparent, very open, and recognizing the whole shift in balance that's happening with the creators and the platform owners. And that, to me, is what I'm really calling as social 2.0. Yeah. So just to kind of move along, just to think about it. I mean, if you look at the whole social 2.0, I think this was actually predicted long time back. I don't know if you're familiar with this phrase called the 1,000 true fans, right? And there was this very smart editor of Wired magazine who in 2008, made a prediction. They said, look, end of the day, the internet is so vast, and the whole, the cost of distribution, if you were to build up any product previously, just reaching the consumers was so difficult, right? But suddenly, so with the internet, accessing those people is so easy, and you could access those 1,000 people anywhere you want in the world. So he actually made a prediction saying that, he said, you don't need millions of dollars or millions of customers, millions of clients or millions of fans. To make a living as a craft person, photographer, musician, designer, author, animator, app maker, entrepreneur, or inventor, you need only thousands of true fans, right? It was very, very, I mean, this was a very sharp insight. And in fact, if you think about it, that's what the internet should have done. I mean, imagine if you got 1,000 true fans anywhere in the world. It could be in Australia, it could be in Norway, it could be in India, it could be Bangladesh. You've reached those guys, and they're willing to pay you as low as $5 or $10 a month. I mean, you're talking about $10,000 a month. $120,000 a year, and that's no small change even in the Western economy. That's a lot of money, right? So the ability, the question is, it's not about about what's happening now. Right now, if you look at it, people are chasing millions of fans. End of the day, all the brands are saying, okay, I need to figure out how to engage with, with micro influencers, mega influencers who've got 1 lakh followers, 1 million followers, right? I mean, this whole rush to try and build up a large network, right? Versus really what you wanted were 1,000 paying fans. That's it. And actually, people now, experts look back and say, you know what? Somewhere the whole promise of social talk, of Kevin Kelly, we actually kind of took a detour after 2008. While 2000, we should have actually doubled down on that. We took a 12-year detour. And now we're coming back to the prediction that Kevin Kelly made in 2008, because now the platforms are enabling you to do that. And just to kind of talk about it, I'll just maybe pick up 2 or 3 companies to kind of set the context, and and then I can probably take some some questions on this. So if you look at it, 2.0, I mean, the first company that comes to my mind, and of course there could be many other companies. I'm not saying these are the first. These are just some of the most representative and some interesting companies. The first company that I really think about, which kind of brought in the revolution of social 2.0, was Gumroad. It's founded by an Indian, Sahil Avingia, sitting out of US. Very interesting company. I'm sure you're probably familiar with it. It basically enables people to sell digital goods online. So, if you're, let's say, a Twitter, influencer with lots and lots of people following you, you kind of keep giving gyan, you're like a novel, or you're like, let's say, Life Math Money. I think this highly polarizing, person on Twitter, probably some of you follow him, right? The question is like, okay, now you've got, let's say, 200,000 people following on Twitter. How do you monetize that? So suddenly this guy, Life Math Money, will suddenly tell them, okay, you know what? These are top 25 dating tips, for the young men out there. Or these are the best tips to make, let's say, 1,000 Twitter followers within, let's say, a month, right? And he kind of sells this thing online. So he just puts in the Gumroad link. People can click onto it, go to Gumroad, make a payment, and then they get a link from which they can download the digital copy of that. So this is the first version of people trying to really come up with something which is more about intrinsically kind of building in payments and e-commerce within the social platform, right? But the only challenge with Gumroad was the fact that it always meant you had to be on the lookout of trying to sell the products. I mean, every 2 weeks you'll suddenly have these guys coming and say, okay, guys, I've got this huge discount going, I've got a Black Friday sale happening, I've this clearance sale happening, come and buy the product. So you're perpetually on the treadmill trying to sell your digital goods all the time, right? Slightly different shift happened with the launch of Patreon. Again, I'm sure you must be familiar with, but please allow me to talk to you about the origin of Patreon. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of this, but it was started by this guy called Jack Conte, one of the co-founders, who was a musician. And the anecdote, the story really goes that he'd apparently spent 50 days at a stretch trying to kind of build, launch his latest music video. I mean, he was exhausted, he was tired, he had maxed out his credit card, and just when he was about to upload that thing on YouTube, he had a thought. He said, you know what? Maybe if I'm lucky, maybe if this music video does extremely well, I'll get 1 million hits. And you know what's going to happen after that? He said, I'm going to get maybe a check in the mail, which will basically for $180. So he said, the music video has to do good, it has to get 1 million hits, and then I'll earn around $180 from YouTube. And that was a very depressing thought. He said, look, here I'm completely kind of maxed out and bankrupt, and that's what's going to happen to me. And then he said, you know what? If it's only $180, maybe I don't need to worry about all of this. I just need 18 super fans of mine supporting me, paying me $10. And maybe not even paying $10, forever, but maybe paying me $10 a month. That's it. And then it struck him that, he could really run the same business on his own terms, just by, turning the switch around, right? So, and that's how Patreon was born. I mean, Patreon basically allows you, as I'm sure most of you would be aware, is that, you could be, let's say, an artist, a tattoo artist, a creator, a writer, or whatever. And you could just, let's say, tell people that, listen, please support me on Patreon. I go to Patreon, let's say I'm looking for, let's say, Sashank out there, and I say, patreon.com Sashank. And then I decide, you know what, I love his work, I love what he does. Let me support him by paying $3 or $5 or $10 a month, every month, and I just kind of put it on. So patrons or the fans start supporting all these artists, all these creators, by the way of simple subscription, And I think what this does is really helps people build a very strong subscription thing. And I today Patreon, for example, claims it has got quarter million, 250,000 creators on the platform. They just raised another $50 million funding. I think they're already valued at some insane $4 billion, right? It's a great story that's playing on. And I think it's very, very, representative of what Social 2.0 is all about, right? The third company that really comes to my mind, I think, as really, and very interestingly, contra company is Substack. Because this is a company which is actually so relevant in today's time. It's a social 2.0 company, but running on Web 1.0 technology. Because all that Substack does is basically enables people like writers, like, let's say, for example, you want to start blogging. So you just start, you just create a simple, newsletter. You upload your, let's say your 100 contacts and you start writing a letter to them about whatever that interests you. It could be about finance, it could be about entrepreneurship, it could be about, traveling, food blogging, whatever it is that really interests you. And then what happens that when they kind of hit a critical mass of, let's say, 500 or 1,000, people subscribing to your newsletter, which is nothing but a simple mail coming to your inbox, they encourage writers to go premium, which means you suddenly start telling them, listen, if you like what I do, if you like my writing, if it entertains you, just pay me $10 a month, right? And they've realized that around typically 25 to 30% of the people actually go premium. And this suddenly frees up the writers because you know what? They don't have to worry about writing stuff which has to appeal to so many people. They just have to worry about writing stuff which appeals to a small segment of people. And Substack has been a runaway success, right? I mean, you now have some people on Substack earning close to $500,000 a year. I mean, all you need is, let's say, 5,000 people paying you $10. That's $50,000 into, let's say, 10. I mean, and the people like Benedict, I think, Azim Azhar, or Ben Thompson, who at some point or the other have used Substack. And this company has been funded by this very, very hallowed Anders Horowitz. It's again, I think, valued close to $1 billion. And there is some $100 million worth of funding, right? So these are great stories, and I think Substack, especially if you think of it, people love it for the simple transparency, because when you pay them $1, 90% goes to the writer. They just keep 1%, 10% to it. $1 goes to the company. As simple as that. They don't run ads to you. They're not using any algorithm because it's all coming by the mail. When the mail comes, they don't tell you, by the way, follow so and so. The purity of Substack is what has really attracted some of the best writers on the planet, and that's what's happening. Right? So I think this is the way, if you look at it, I mean, the what you see is transparency, and clarity of business model. Whether writers, whether creators own a direct relationship with with really the fans, and I think that's what they're really looking for. Another company that comes to my mind, I think, is this company called Axel Infinity, which is actually a pet game, which again allows, now in this case, allows people to actually buy and sell tokens on the platform. They can gift each other, they can earn each other, win these tokens, which can eventually be redeemed for cash. Now that's an example of a company which is building all of this on top of so-called Web 3.0 technology, right? But then again, you've got Substack, which is successful. You've got this. It really doesn't matter whether the underlying theme is crypto or an NFT or a simple payment mechanism, a subscription mechanism, which is making work. To kind of just conclude all of this, therefore, I'm just trying to put it together to say that, look, the key characteristic, we saw what the key characteristics of 1.0 were, and I think the key characteristics of Social 2.0 is very simple. It's really about, first, it's about subscription. Most of the successful platform that you will see, whether it's Twitch, whether it's Substack, whether it's, Udemy or whatever, it's all about having a recurring revenue stream. It's really about focusing on getting an access to your 1,000 true fans, about having a business model, rather than worrying about dopamine-based model. Because if you look at on YouTube, you have to ensure that the content is very, very catchy, the headline is very clickbaity, so that you can get lots and lots of views, so that you can get paid. Engagement, likes, views is what gives you payments, and it's not about the nature of the content. So the moment you have a recurring revenue from your 500, 100, 200 people, suddenly your quality of content goes up, and you can start thinking in terms of long-term annuity business, like we looked at the Substack example. Right? The second feature really out here in the subscription is the fact that it gives you creative independence, because you know what, trying to appeal to 1 million followers versus trying to appeal to a small cohort of 50, 100, 500, 1,000 followers, there's a huge difference. You can be yourself to those 1,000 people. You could dive deeper. You could write deeper about what they really care for. You could probably make videos or podcasts, which is what they really care about, rather than all the time about trying to, come up with all these affiliate marketing, about trying to, oh my God, let me build up 1 million people, then let me, pitch all these products, let me get these links, let me give these coupons, You're all the time on the treadmill. But this allows you creative independence. It gives you direct control. It gives you direct control between you and the users. There's no algorithm between you and them, and you have full control about what you do, right? I think the second piece, which is very important, I think, of Social 2.0 is the fact that it gives you data privacy. Because the whole incentivization of this business is very different. In the previous model, you really had, the only way these guys made money is through advertising. And for advertising, you need more data, you need more insights, you need kind of cross, collection of, of information, right? But the moment you're only going to be making money by making 10% or 20% of the whole transaction, or even 50% of the transaction fee, you're not really bothered about what the data is. You don't really care about the data. You don't need to store data. And I think that's the purity that Substack and other people kind of blame it. Of course, you might want to have some behavioral insights and stuff like that, but you're not using the data to get more ads, right? And I think that fundamentally changes the control that we talked about. Users want to be more in control of how their data is being used. And the third very interesting thing that I think that's coming off is the whole unbundling. We are coming from a time where social 1.0 meant these large behemoths, this giant Facebook, which is into videos, into Facebook games, into everything, right? And now what we're seeing in social 2.0 is we're seeing this whole unbundling happening. Because you know what? There are different, there are different communities, there are different niches, and each social network wants to focus on that. So you might probably, go to Spotify, Podio for, for video content. You might go to Udemy for something else. I used to love playing Age of Empires 20 years back. I don't know, even if you guys have heard of that game. I used to play that a lot. And now I love going to Twitch once in a while to see Viper take on Hera, on Twitch, right? And then you probably have their own following. They have their own 100,000 followers who are paying them $10 a month. And that's how, it sustains. So, you're going to see, for example, Facebook groups get unbundled into paid channels on Slack, into paid channels happening on Discord, right? So you're going to see this whole unbundling. What you saw was built up is getting stripped down vertically and horizontally into different companies. And I think which is why social 2.0 companies, profitable companies, far outnumber social 1.0 companies. As long as you can find a small niche, a small community, or a small need, I think, you can actually build a very strong business model and a company around it. So I think to kind of just conclude this part, is really about the fact that, I think social one was all about hustle. You hustle to kind of get 1 million people on Insta, 1 million people, or whatever, 500,000 people on Twitter. And then you hustle trying to monetize it. You either sold them books, either you kind of sold them webinars, either you kind of told them promoted products, and you try to make money. Whereas in social 2.0, the focus has moved completely about creating value. You find that small cohort of people, those 500,000 people who really value what you say, and you just go, focused on driving immense value to them, so much so that they're willing to pay you that $10, $20 a month, And I think that is, the essence of what social 2.0 is. Yeah. So I think, maybe at this, we could take a logical break, Shashank, as suggested by you, and, I could hold back the second part of the discussion on Thinkly after that. Let me know if that works for you.
Yeah, so guys, if you have any question, for some reason people are not able to chat. So there are few people from other colleges also. So it's totally fine. Just unmute yourself, and if you have any question, feel free to ask.
Hello, can I go for it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Vivek. It was a really good session. And the best part was that you said that how we can have social 2.0 without having web 3.0. And it was very interesting that how we can have transparency and improve social 2.0. I just wanted to understand what would be the difference in social 2.0, which is built on web 3.0 and which is built on web 2.0. Because as much as I could understand from all the decentralized, the study I did, that on blockchain, the stakeholders are getting the right to vote and the right to decide that in which direction the product to be taken. So I wanted to understand, would that happen in Web 1, with Web 2.02? And if the stakeholders are so much involved in the product of vision, will the really product of vision would be executed properly? Like the reason YouTube or Twitter is working well, because there are 2 or 3 brains who have a product vision and who are working for it. So just wanted to understand your insights and your views about it. Thank you.
Yeah, Prathamesh, I think that's a great question. Like I said, just to again kind of rephrase, I think I kind of clarify that, social 2.0 companies, like you rightly said, are being built on Web 2.0, and they could probably be built on Web 3.0. You're already seeing Web 3.0 companies coming up. Like I think the Axie Infinity that I talked about is an example where, kind of, there is obviously a whole lot of, community kind of decides, they kind of vote, and they, do stuff like that, right? In some ways, I think I'm not sure. I mean, that's my personal view. I think we're just seeing, Web 3.0 in that sense play out, right? I wonder, because I really think that some of the best products happen when, a few wise men kind of take a call and they kind of double down, right? I mean, you saw the whole, brilliance of Mark Zuckerberg when he did this, right? When he kind of launched this company. You saw the brilliance of Bill Gates, you saw the brilliance of Jack Dorsey and the team, right? So I genuinely believe that, look, you know what, all of this sounds very cool, that I want to vote, catch EA, can EA, whatever, but you really need, in my view, a smart entrepreneur with some smart insights, with a lot of wisdom, focusing. We kind of, we all love democracy, right? End of the day. But basically, what you're trying to say that look, the most ignorant person in a democracy is as good as the most wise person in a democracy. And I think that is the appeal. I think whenever people start talking about crypto and black, I think they all get excited because somehow you believe that oh my God, this is going to be so liberating. I'll have a say. I want to do. I don't know whether that's really going to work. But that's my view. But fact of the matter is there is a big change happening. You will probably see some great products come out. Out there. But even if you look at all the blockchain-based companies, there is ultimately even a core team out there. Even if you look at Ethereum, when there was a bank heist that happened on Ethereum, right? When they ran away with all these things, right? The core team out there decided to make a fork, and they kind of took Ethereum into a different fork, where as if the whole heist had never even happened. Now, who decided? Not all of them, right? There was a core team. So I don't know. I mean, I think the jury is still out. I really wonder. I mean, can you, for example, have a vote? Okay, do you guys want to do an edit button on Twitter? 51% people say yes, and therefore tomorrow you have an edit button. And then you say, you know what, I want to be. Do you want to vote, Trump back into the Twitter? You have a voting button. I don't know. I mean, it really makes no sense. I think fundamentally business is all about capitalism. It's about allocation of resources. It's about ingenuity, and I think you probably may not have that best in blockchain, right? In that sense. Having said that, blockchain has its benefits, and I think what we'll probably see is a hybrid model, where people are using some elements of the decentralization to run this well, maybe to earn the trust back. But you'll always have a few people architecting. But that's really a Web 1.0 guy commenting on a Web 3.0, right? So take me with a pinch of salt.
Thank you, Vivek.
Vivek, I think we can take further question at the end of the session if you can explain thinkly. Also, your video is off, so if you can switch on the video.
All right, let me just. My video's off. Okay, let me just get this thing going again.
It's just me, or are you guys also not able to see him? Samay Prathamesh Pratiksha, if you can say.
Okay, I'll just get the PPT going again, and then I'll worry about the video later.
Acha, cool, it's fine.
Yeah, so just I just wanted to kind of share with you guys. Is my presentation visible now?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes, I just want to take 5-7 minutes just sharing with you as to why we stumble upon Thinkly and what we're doing, out here, So I think like we keep, why Thinkly? I mean, there's so many platforms out there, right? And so this is when I actually, around 2015, if you look at it, we started Zipcash in 2008, which was way back, like 10 years before demonetization, right? And we spent the 8 years trying to build, a payments company, right? Trying to solve the hard problem. And when I exited Zipcash to Ola in 2015, I mean, you said it powers Ola Money now, right? We kind of just sat back and said, okay, what do we do next? And we felt that the big hard problem to solve right now was all about the social network, because social networks had actually become a very important part of our lives. All of us were on some platform or the other, but like we talked about it had all these issues. The whole issue of addiction, anxiety, mindless scrolling, toxicity. I mean, we touch all this, for whatever reason, right? And I think our whole endeavor of team, Deepak, Naveen, and I, the three of us, we really said that, look, how do we make social media relevant today? How do we harness the best of social media to kind of, create value in people's life rather than all of this, because you talk to anybody about social media, it's all about fake news, it's all about negativity attached to it. So we actually really sat down and we said, okay, let's just try and remap, and we just kind of put in some of the big ones, and okay, this is what we came up with, saying that if we were to kind of do a plotting of let's say network on the y-axis, and really on the post on the x-axis, right? I mean, so there are two kinds of networks. One, what we call is the interest groups network, and let's say the friends and family, right? So friends and family are typically bidirectional, like a Facebook. You both need to be friends to be able to, really message each other. Instagram and Twitter, I can just follow anybody publicly, right? And similarly on the post, I mean, are these spontaneous reaction opinions, or are these more thought through musings or whatever, And I think this is what we felt like, we really felt that, look, on the left-hand side, we have this huge, platform that's kind of playing out with Twitter, Facebook, and all of that. But on the right side, we really felt that there was a big need for a platform which could really share, interesting musings. Now, LinkedIn Pulse, for example, comes, halfway there, because you do have a lot of posts about your job and everything, but that's very unidimensional. Think about architecture. I mean, my passion, astronomy, philosophy, where do I really go and talk about that, right? Because if I were to go and write a post on philosophy on Facebook, I'll probably get a call from my aunt in Lucknow saying, "Beta, sab theek hai? What's up with you?" Kind of a thing. So we really felt that there was a very interesting place for an interest-led platform, which could really be focused about, creating value. And our vision really for Thinkly is about creating a safe place, free of all the toxicity. So right from the get-go, our product has got features built in which kind of reduces, if not eliminates, trolls out there. So, how do we create a safe place for thought-provoking creators and seekers, we obviously keep thinking, say, look, how do we be the Netflix for some great content out there? When you come out to Thinkly, you just probably find some of the best writings, some of the best videos and podcasts by really smart people, right? And we obviously think about it as a place where the world comes to think, right? So this is really a vision for Thinkly. Do check out the app. I would love to kind of get your feedback on that. And as we kind of build this out, we kind of focus on 4 main cohorts. So the first was really about how do we get some very fascinating independent creators on the platform? So we've been very lucky. I'll just share with you some of the names. The second, we realized that, listen, you know what? There's a ton of files of information that's being made available by media houses. In fact, while we were raising a funding for Thinkly, a large, broadcaster reached out to us and said, listen, we believe you're building this thing called Thinkly, which is all about subscriptions. Can you help us monetize our content? And, we were zapped because, we were not even out of the woods. And here's a company saying, he said, you know what? Television channels create so much of content, we're just not able to monetize it. It's all about advertising, and advertising all about TRPs, and we want to kind of get over that, So what we've started doing is we've reached out to some of the largest publication houses, not only India, but across the world. And by largest, we mean really the likes of, like the NYT and the Economist and all of them, right? And the kind of feedback we're getting from them is they're very excited to participate. And in fact, we'll be announcing some of the relationships soon over the next few weeks, where you could on Thinkly get content from some of the best feeds. Some of the best minds available in the form of, eventually it will be available in the form of micro subscriptions. So let's say you like, for example, let's say you like the NYT, but you don't want to pay $10 a month for them, but you love the New York Times tech blog. What if the tech blog was available on the platform for, let's say, 50 cents? So you don't have the whole paper, you don't want the whole culture, politics, you just want the tech blog, Or let's say, for example, just by way of example, let's say you like Times of India, but let's say you're just interested in Speaking Tree, So what you're really working on is how do we unbundle and rebundle some of the best content available by interest feed on the platform, right? And the third thing is, we're trying to curate some of the top 40, 50 newsletters available in the world. So whether it's Morning Brew, Hustle, or letters like by Azim Azhar or Ben Thompson, just get all the free letters, consolidate them, and make them available out here. And the last is, of course, we're building some of our own very interesting, Thinkly curated and Thinkly, original content out there. So just a framework. I mean, just to kind of give you. So if you get on to Thinkly, you can actually share posts in the form of a blog, in the form of videos. By the end of the week, you'll be able to share podcasts, and all of this resides in what we call as a publication. So you need to just go. So let's say, for example, if somebody is interested in astronomy, he can create a publication on astronomy, and within that, share his own writings, put his own videos, or put some curated videos, have a podcast, all around that, right? I think our core focus about the product is really about its in-app wallet that we've actually built. It's an in-app wallet which allows you the freedom. So let's say when I come on to Thinkly, the app itself is free. But tomorrow, let's say I decide to make my content on astronomy, as a paid one, So I could just say, hey, you know what? You can subscribe to this just by paying 2 stars. And, people can just simply use the in-app wallet, and every month 2 stars will get deducted, And that's how we, right from the get-go, are enabling this whole transaction and revenue share very, very transparently with the creators on the platform in that sense. Just moving along, I think some of the people, like we said, we've got people like Komal Kapoor, we've got Gaurav Kalra, the very famous, journalist. We have Dr. Ajit Ranade, one of the biggest name in India when it comes to economics. He's the chief economist at Aditya Birla Group. And actually, starting today, in fact, we're going to be getting a feed from 50 Nobel laureates and 120 heads of state from around the world. In fact, the first, post went up today under the Global Thought Leaders publication in Thinkly, So that's the kind of content we're trying to get to you, really the top of the top, the elite out there. And at the same time, there's UGC, there's user-generated content, which the independent creators are writing. So these are some of the names and stuff like that. We got Kaveri Bamzai, Sandeep Bamzai. We're trying Vinit Panchi, very well-known name, if you look at Ruchi Kemka, somebody who's the head of CSR at Deutsche Bank. So I think what you find when you come into Thinkly is a very, very eclectic group. We're still in the early days. We know we have a long way, but what we're loving is the feedback we're getting from the creators, because they suddenly find this place where there is no unnecessary trolling. The whole environment, the whole context is very, very about creating value. And I think over a period of time is when you're really going to be looking at the monetization engine kicking in. So this is just a thought. I would love your feedback. And just to kind of close this out, we're running actually a contest called the Thinkly Springboard, along with in association with the Ashoka Media Film and Communication Society of the famous Ashoka University. The contest was actually on till 30th November, but based on the popular demand, we've actually extended till December 15, where we're really encouraging anybody who's a student to kind of come on to Thinkly, create the publication. The prize is worth 50,000 rupees to be won, and of course we're offering internships for some of the winners. So we would love you to collaborate. I mean, to kind of get onto the platform, and most importantly, would love your feedback, because I think we need to really listen to the Brightian students, about really how you'd like to consume the content. Yeah. I'll just so that's really what it was all about, and I mean, would love to hear your feedback. This is my email ID, viv@thinkly.in. Anybody's got thoughts, feedback, comments, would love to hear from you. With that, let me just shut my presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vivek, for that. I think House is offered a question. Any person having any question can unmute themselves and ask anything if they have.
Hi Vivek. It is very interesting to see that the content which would be there on Thinkly, it would be on niche topics, because like as you said, specifically for philosophy and stuff, we don't get right content and right people and right community for that. So it's very interesting. And you mentioned some issues with the current social media, and which leads to, like, their main thing is dopamine. I was just curious to know that is dopamine, or are those issues which the social media has currently the reason that they have so much virality and network effect? And if that is the case, then how Thinkly would have that virality and network effect to reach a big audience?
Right. I think that's a great question, and I think, like I said, I don't blame the social media 1.0 companies for having the whole dopamine effect, because that's what really happened. I mean, I would urge you to watch this video where I think Yuval Harari, Noah Yuval Harari, or the Sapiens author, is, I think, having a conversation with Sam Altman, really talking about the YouTube video, right? He said, like, I know we talk about conscious choice. He said, how does it matter, whether YouTube is reading algorithm? He said, but you know what? One human mind cannot fight the algorithm of a YouTube algo, which is built on billions of, they know better than you what you want to watch next, and you open the YouTube video, you're stuck to it, right? So I think the dopamine has been used in different forms. Insta likes, Facebook likes, all of that drives us in that sense, right? I'm not saying it's bad. And again, like, I think there's a place for everything under the sun. I don't think so we're expecting people to get off Insta. We are not expecting. We just want to create a place where it's more meaningful. And of course, out here, probably, I think the dopamine out here would probably be very interesting comments, feedback to you. People writing back to you, getting into an engaging conversation. If you look at Substack, for example, there is probably zero dopamine, right? Because all that happens is you get a mail, let's say from your favorite author, you read that mail, and then you just move on, right? Until next week, when again the next mail comes. For example, Azim Azhar, Sunday morning, I need to check out his mail when it comes at 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock, out here, because he just is a very, very smart man. You just want to read that guy, No, but I'm not doing this for the dopamine effect. I'm just doing that probably for knowledge, right? I also believe, Prathamesh, that you'll see social 2.0 unbundling in ways that you'll probably not even recognize them to be a social platform. So I think Substack is a way. It's not even social platform. A Slack channel is not even your regular social channel. A Discord, I don't know whether you want to call it social media. I mean, you just think of it as a chat room, right? So I think that's what you're going to see, and I don't know whether we can club them, in that sense, right? But yeah, you still have to obviously worry about growth. You have to worry about engagement. You have to worry about virality. I agree, and I think these companies will find a way. I mean, if you look at Twitch, for example, I mean, do you play Age of Empires? Do you watch Age of Empires or Fortnite or whatever? Like, I mean, it's good. It's a good entertainment, right? When you get onto Twitch and you watch some of the best guys take on each other, right? In that sense. So yeah, I think so. A short answer to this is that I think there will obviously be ways that people will have to do. In our case, we are saying that, look, we would rather worry about the value of content, like the way a Substack does, to keep the people engaged, rather than kind of just giving them, the pseudo boost through, likes and thumbs up and all that stuff. Hope that addresses some of your. But, yeah.
Interesting. Any other question, guys?
Hi Vivek, this is Shubham
Yeah.
here.
Hi, Shubham.
So really fascinated with the model that Thinkly is bringing, and how you guys are putting together the best of the people, best of the thinkers. Just want to ask, like, there are two kind of audiences that you're reaching out. One are
Right.
the students, and other are the people who are into the working class, right? So if I ask you, the you know the psychology of a student is one who fears subscribing to anything. So how are you going to deal with that? People don't like students like us, they're not very open to subscription because they don't know ki aage kya hone wala hai. They don't know ki if they are going to uh, subscribe to this for like more than a month, or will they be willing to pay for it after 1 month. They don't know that what is going to happen. But people, like, if someone is a pilot, he knows that he's a pilot and he'll be a pilot for a time now. Okay, so he
Right.
knows what he's going to watch, what whom he's going to listen to. But students, they're not sure. So
Right.
how is Thinkly going to handle that?
Right. So if I hear you correctly, you're saying that students, might be a little more fickle in terms of subscribing. So, I think, Shubham, the 2 points. One is, of course, our Springboard contest was more about inviting students to come and create their own publications on the platform. And like you said, we trying to get a eclectic, intellectual crowd. And I would love it if some of you from I think IIT Delhi would obviously boast of some of the smartest people in the country without a doubt. It would be great to have some of you come on and create your own channel or your own, publication on Thinkly. So that's one. The second part is, when you say subscription, not all of it is paid. In fact, I mean, initially, I think I would imagine a lot of the subscriptions on the platform is going to be free. I think over a period of time, you'll see some of them basically paywalling it. So we are in that stage. Again, I think it's not about whether it's expensive or not. I think that's a relative term. I'm sure a lot of you being in your hostel would be subscribing to Netflix. Like, you're probably paying $10 a month, right? And it's not expensive because you're paying 600 rupees because it's required, right? I'm sure you probably go watch a movie, you're probably paying 500 rupees on the routing. So I think what is expensive, what is not expensive is a relative term. It really depends upon the value it brings to you. In our context, we are really looking at publications and people making it available in the form of micro public subscriptions. We're expecting the subscription to be in the range of 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 40 rupees. We're not looking at, let's say, 700 rupees. At least that's not the model that we're looking at. So what we're encouraging people to come in is to create their own blogs and price it really, really exciting at $20. Let's say you can tomorrow, let's say, read Khalid Mohammed. Okay. He's not from your time, it's from our time, but let's say somebody else, like, let's say you, some interesting feed on, let's say, popular science and new scientists, and nature at around 20 rupees a month, right? You'd see value automatically. So I think the onus is on us, Shubham, to try and create feeds which would be relevant to you. But our endeavor is to make it available through sachet-based pricing, micro subscriptions, and not something that you would even think twice about.
Right.
Interesting.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you.
Any other question, guys?
I have these two questions. So, like in maths, we have a concept of asymptotes. So the function tends to reach some value, but it doesn't completely reaches that value. So like WAP 3.0, like we're talking about, so it's about decentralization and giving power to people. Is it like giving more power to people, or is it like completely giving the power to the people? Are we trying to like give more power and trying to reach that era, or like we're completely into that? So views on that.
No, so could you just repeat the first part? I missed you somewhere. I'm sorry about that.
For example, when do you know what a curve of xy equals 1 look like? So like imagine a function that actually goes parallel to a line, but doesn't actually touch the line. It just gets closer and closer and closer. Just keep getting closer.
Yeah.
When we talk about Web 3.0 getting decentralized and getting into the hands of people, is it like giving more power to the people? We're giving them more freedom. We're tending to be more inclined towards them, or we're completely giving it to them?
I think the appeal that people are liking, Samyak, about, when you say the technical building blocks of Web 3.0, when you talk about really about crypto, when you talk about blockchain, smart contracts, when you talk about NFT, it's about that utopian dream. Like, that eventually, everything can be running independent of a company. People will have all the power with them. They can just simply vote in what's right and wrong. And I really think that the jury is out on this one. In fact, we were at some point thinking about should we be kind of integrating bitcoins into a whole compensation thing, right? But then again, we are working out of India, right? There is a regulatory overhang, which is always a problem out here, in that sense, right? So we decided, and I think wisely so, because of what we see now happening in the parliament. There's a whole possibility that thing might be, kind of. But yeah, so I think the appeal of this is the whole appeal of decentralization and all. And I think, if you look at it, Samyak, that's the belief of technology. Technology believes that, if you look at all the big tech giants, they all believe that they're living in their own silo, which is independent of the world around them. They can do what they want. Nobody can, question. It's this huge democratization of the world. But honestly, I don't think so that's the truth. Because if you look at it, end of the day, you are all part of a sovereign nation somewhere, right? I mean, the whole congressional hearing that you've been seeing happening when Mark Zuckerberg has been summoned to the Congress 6 months back, when Tim Cooks and, Sundar Pichai and all of them are summoned, So I think that's kind of utopian, but that's not the truth. You think that you can work completely independently. It's not necessarily the case. You ultimately, big tech itself is also going to be, is going to in a way be subservient to the sovereign that is out there. You might want to pretend otherwise, but that's not the case. We saw the same thing blow out happen out here in India with Twitter around 2 months back, right? Where I think they wanted to come up with the significant social media intermediary guidelines. Twitter again and again refused to comply to it. Finally, it towed the line, right? So I don't think so. We'll have technology working completely independently outside of regulation, outside of this thing and all. Yeah, you might probably have some elements of things like blockchain, which will probably enable you to kind of maybe do record keeping better, land records they've talked about, could you decentralize it? But honestly, some of this can be done very well with a trusted source also. I don't see why you really need to move all of them. People are, I think in some ways, blockchain is like a hammer looking for a nail, trying to look for that lovely problem that it can kind of, solve, in that sense. So I don't know, but there are already networks out there which are using it. Like we talked about, we talked about some of the games which are out there, which are using it extremely well. But I don't know. I think the jury is out on this one. I have my reservations about these technologies, in that sense. But I have a reservation of Bitcoin. But look at where Bitcoin is, right? It's probably on its way to touch $100,000, right? I mean, I always thought that that's not going to happen. It's happening. So we'll have to see how it plays out in the long run.
Couple of days ago, I was having this debate with my senior about if we give like more power to the people, and companies like Google, which acts as a mediator or like coordinates the internet, will be in danger. Like so, like
I think somewhere it's a very nuanced debate, like because I think end of the day, I think powers company like Google have actually come in and have given you so much power. The indexing of the of the globe that they've done, of the world that they've done, of the internet that they've done, has given us so much power. In that sense, the brilliance of the engineers of the capitalism has actually given you some stuff. But of course, when you see something becoming extremely strong, there is this whole movement on the opposite side, and I think which is the whole appeal. This is like a countering force, right? That maybe blockchain, maybe Bitcoin will solve the problem, right? I don't know how many problems it will solve, but yeah, there is definitely some pressure. But do you really expect that there'll be a Facebook clone running out there just by maybe 1,000, like the question that Prathamesh asked some time back, right? People just voting for the features, people just voting for that. I don't think so that will survive against the sheer ingenuity and the might of some smart people. But I think we'll see how it plays out. And I think we're all trying to put our head around it, right? I mean, look at the way the NFTs, the way it blew up, right, over the last 6 months. Now, I mean, the amount of it made no sense. But then again, if you think about it, it looks very, very ridiculous that how an NFT, which is nothing but a hash value to a digital good, which builds in some kind of ownership and scarcity, is even surviving. But then somebody might say, okay, what's the big deal about Mona Lisa painting, right? Why should it be costing around 100 and whatever, maybe $200 million, right? So I think it's all about perception. I think we're still trying to get our head around this thing. We're probably going through this whole hype right now. There will probably be a some kind of a semblance, but then eventually I think some strong use cases will come up.
The second question I had was like not related to this. So like, do you want me to ask at the end, or should I be asking this now?
Yeah, go ahead, Pushle.
So like when I was going through your profile, I found that you had three master's degree, and the one in philosophy, the M in philosophy, was like pursued after 20 years, around more than 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Nothing. That's what happens to you when you become an entrepreneur, right? You get completely messed up and you're trying to find meaning of life, right? Yeah, so I actually got introduced to, some literally in the middle of my Zipcash, venture. I was doing that from 2008 onwards, and somewhere I stumbled upon Buddhism in 2010. Got fascinated by it. I started, trying to understand that deeper and deeper. Landed up at the university to attend a course, and then, the teachers really encouraged me to pick up follow a masters out there, right? Luckily, I think Bombay University had this program which was for irregulars like us, where we had instructions on Saturday, Sundays, right, over the weekend. So it was brilliant. I mean, you were running the company on Monday to Friday, attending philosophy Saturday, Sunday. It was fun. I mean, I never had more fun in my life. Yeah.
Do you also believe that today, like we can pursue anything that we want without having a certification or degree in that? Like, for example, I was interested in blockchain, so I was watching this lecture on YouTube. I won't have any certification or information regarding like certification or a formal. But like I'm still.
No, I think that's a great question again. And if you look at it, some of the whole movement that's happening in the edtech space and the skill tech space, like when you look at Power MBA, Upgrad, stuff like that, right? If you look at Coursera, and the stuff, right? I think there really are. So I don't like today what people say that you shouldn't be spending let's say $20,000, $40,000 attending a class on Zoom. Like last year when the whole pandemic hit, right? They said you can probably learn much more by just doing a Coursera or a certification. You really coming to a premium institute like IIT or an IIM, or let's say going to some of them abroad for the networking and the whole peer-to-peer learning that you can do. But when it comes to knowledge and all, I think you're right. You can pretty much learn anywhere right now. And I think our view about whom we hire, and like you said, you had interest about blockchain. You went down, you kind of doubled down, and you know it, right? And I think that's good enough. I don't think so. We're going to be looking at validation from institutes, at some point. But yeah, there is still value in a degree. But yeah, it may not necessarily be each and every skill out there. I think Coursera is a huge disruptor. All these skill tech companies, I'm part of a VC. I'm a general partner with them. We made some investment in tech companies, and it's really fascinating the kind of stuff that's happening out there.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir.
Right. Guys, if you are not from IIT, if you are from some other college, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any question if you want to have. Right. So we can have one or two last questions. After that, we'll wrap up the session. If there's any STEM question coming to your mind, just unmute, or if you are not comfortable to unmute yourself, put in the chat section. I will ask it out.
I was curious to know that currently we all are used to the behavior of getting content for free. So how, and if the content is going to get monetized, how is that behavior going to happen in humans?
Yeah, so again, great question. And I think if you think about it, I mean, even before you guys were born, I mean, literally, into early 2000, all the telecom companies figured out a way to monetize content. So you had actually your caller ring back tunes, you had your wallpapers, you had your ringtones, all of that, So, but I think the ease with which they were able to do it was because they made the whole billing very easy. So let's say, for example, if you like somebody's ringtone, you could just simply press star #9. It will ask you for confirmation. You say yes, and immediately it will get billed to your phone, bill, or it will get deducted from your talk time. Like 10 rupees deducted from the talk time. In fact, 197, which is Paytm, was doing all of this, right? In the early years, right? It was what we call as a value-added service company, mCoach, and all that stuff, right? So I think we Indians don't have a problem paying for content. I think the question is about how easy do you make it, and it has to be sachet-based pricing. So we are hoping that as and when people come onto the platform and start seeing, if you see value out there, if you see somebody writing some great content, we don't think so. You'll probably hesitate in, let's say, doing that, and which is why we kind of build the whole Thinkly, let's say the wallet out there. We've kind of made it simple as one touch, payment kind of a thing out there. And we'll see. I think we'll also learn, we'll also figure out, and I'm sure we'll also have to go through our own little pivots to kind of get there.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, like, it's just like the US. I don't think so as a market was so different. In fact, just the other day we were looking at it. We said that Indians have always had content free. But really, if you look at an average home right now, you're probably paying 2,000 rupees a month for content. You'll probably be paying 600 rupees for your Netflix. You'll probably be paying another few hundred rupees for your, your Prime. Maybe some money for Spotify. You probably have 4 newspapers coming in. That's, a couple of hundred a month. So whatever, I mean, you kind of get the drift, right? I mean, the fact is that we do pay, and we don't probably realize it. And I think what we're just trying to do is get you some great content and figure out how, you do.
Interesting. So this is gonna be last question of the session, and this will be mine. So Vivek, when you go ahead and build a community, or maybe try to create a social media platform where you want people to come and join, right? And you want them to interact in some certain way, right? So how you exactly go about, sort of what you call it, customer acquisition strategy, I think, if that is the right word. So how exactly you evaluate how to reach out to the people who are not just interested to have some dopamine hit, but they are actually interested to have value addition? So that sharing of link, referral to the friends, I don't think this will actually work for people like Parthesh and Samyak, who are deep into something. So how you plan to acquire such people?
Right, so I think, Shashank, honestly, I wish I had the answers because we're still building out a company. But I think if you look at more two-sided networks, you have to figure out, that which is the hard problem to solve. Like in some cases, for example, is it on the supply side or is it on the demand side? Because whenever you try to do a network, right? Like in our case, we believe that the harder problem to solve is about getting great quality content creators on the platform. Like how do we, like for example, how do we get some quality feed? How do we get these Nobel laureates? How do we get people like economists? How do we get, stuff like that? We believe that's a hard problem to solve. And then you can solve the softer problem. In fact, just today I was sharing an article with my colleague, which is by Andrew Chen. He's just come up with a very good book. He's again a general partner with Andreessen Horowitz, where he actually talks about what he calls the cold start problem, how companies can go from 0 to 100, from nothing, how you get there. He's talked about today the example of a Tinder. It's one of the chapters in the book. You say, look, it's about, he said, whenever you come up with let's say, a dating app, like, if you go in the start and you don't have, let's say, good profiles of the opposite sex, out there, you'll never like it. And how do you get them in the first place, right? So he's kind of, again, later, right, check it out, just Google up Andrew Chen, cold start problem, and he's very nicely articulated that, right? So I think ultimately it's always about that. Knowingly, unknowingly, we have to first go after, between the two, which is the harder problem, get that supply or get that demand in place, and then, go on across to the other side. Then again, if you look at it, I mean, every such platform, like whether it's Twitter, Insta, they've all had the moments, right? I think like in India, Twitter had this moment when finally, I think Deepika Padukone got some free credits from Twitter, some got some promotion, and it's kind of, the whole profile blew up for her, right? For Twitter in America, it was Ashton Kutcher out there really, kind of doing it. Or maybe you could even say Donald Trump, right? I mean, he really made it, really mass in that sense, right? Instagram, it was all about getting the celebs on it. So I think, you just got to go figure out that who's that person who's going to drive it for you. And then, kind of hope that the community builds around that.
Got it. I get it. Vivek, it's been an honor to have you with us. We sometimes
it's been my privilege to be amongst you all, and I really, I love the questions. To be honest, some of them really have made me think, and I think I don't have the answers, but it's going to be my endeavor to try and go back, think about it, and would kind of, really, come back to you. Sorry, I interrupted you, but I just wanted to, first of all, just acknowledge, it was my pleasure to be here first. Yeah, sorry, back to you.
Great. The way you smoothly deliver everything was really fascinating, because we have speakers coming to session and we sometimes feel there's something offbeat going on. But for a second, I never ever felt in this particular session. And I saw people, curiously asking different sets of questions. So I think credit goes to you, not to us. So Vivek, I think we might have some other session with you also in the future. For now, I think we should wrap up. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Right? Pleasure.
Good night.
Thank you, Vivek.